a lot of women have like this, self-doubt. Just, just be yourself. Like, you're a girl, act like a girl.
Welcome back to this new episode. I hope you had a good New Year's, happy Christmas, and that you got nice presents. This was Karin Gutzwiller-Schreier. She said, when people love what they do, it's not work, it's just what they do. She started Animazul out as a side project while working full-time in IT sales for HP, the computer company. The platform brings Latin American brands with a story and an impact to European consumers, and the products can be found on the startup's webshop or in one of the many pop-up stores around Switzerland. In this episode you'll learn how Karin managed to go from IT saleswoman to fashion entrepreneur, how she got her first customers and launched with a bang, why you shouldn't underestimate the power of influencers, how the government can help you out for free, while building a startup with a social impact is important, why it's important to do what you love, and what Karin would do differently looking back. I am super excited to start the year 2019 with this amazing interview. Have fun and enjoy. Karin, welcome to our podcast. Thanks for taking the time.
Yes, thank you.
Let us jump right in. It's a super exciting startup. We've checked it out. Can you tell a little bit about yourself and the startup? What do you do and what's the story behind it?
Okay. So we are Animazul. So it's me and my brother, who's actually more like a freelancer and a co-founder. But so we started Animazul is a platform for Latin American brands with a story and an impact. We're looking for those brands in Latin America that have something very special. They're maintaining a technique, like craftsmanship, or there are women the impact is ranging really from women empowerment to poverty alleviation to inclusive brands. So it's really a wide range, and we want to find those brands that have a story to tell. And right now we're working with brands from Mexico, Guatemala, mostly because I'm from Guatemala, and Peru, Colombia, El Salvador. So we're really looking around. I just came back from a trip from Mexico where we're very excited for spring and summer next year. Just finding, those unique stories and brands. So it's more than fashion. It's really kind of a story and bringing Latin American craftsmanship and design and love for detail and colors and textures to the European market. And we started here in Zurich. And right now Switzerland is our main market. So we are traveling right now all across Switzerland. I just came back from Geneva, where we're doing pop-ups because we're online, right? So this is our main thing. We're a platform, an online e-commerce platform where we portray the brands and we tell the stories through Instagram or newsletter or through pop-ups. But we created the pop-ups because we realized that people want to touch the things, they want to see them, they want to try them on. It's a bit different. So this is basically what we're doing. And we started this year in March. Actually, started during a trip back to Guatemala. I was visiting my parents. And we've been playing with this idea with my brother for a long time to do something from Latin America. And I did some research on sustainable fashion when I was at university, and so I did one on consumer behavior towards organic cotton, and then the second one on financing of ethical fashion brands, on how they can attract business angels and VCs. And but I'm not a designer. I studied business and marketing, so it was really, really hard to find a job back then. It was 8 years ago to find a job in the fashion industry, in the sustainable fashion industry, because I didn't have a fashion background. I didn't have any experience in fashion, so I had marketing jobs or finance jobs and stuff like that. So it was a bit difficult, and I really tried, but all the companies are like us at the moment. So 1 to 2 people, they couldn't find themselves, of course. And I just finished university, so I went into IT, but the whole sustainable fashion, and it has really developed over the years. And I realized there's so many brands popping up in Latin America, and they're very, very innovative, and they have very interesting business models. So not just creating really cool design, but also creating a social impact in their communities. And then yeah, and then what I do was I did sales in IT for 7 years more or less, and consulting, and so I thought, okay, this is what I can do, and so I decided to provide them a platform where they can sell their things through our platform, and we help them grow. Some of them are already very developed, but some are really new. So we're taking the ones that are ready to export. So we help export and how you have to handle everything, and with others a bit different. So it's a really interesting range of people that we're working with, and so now creating the market here, and we launched in June the platform, so we went live on the 9th of June. So from March until 9th I was working non-stop on the homepage, and my brother is a graphic designer, so I have two brothers that were actually working both with Animazul.
Nice.
So we're three. I'm the youngest, and my brother, the oldest, Christian, he's a graphic designer, and he is focused, so he's a specialist in branding, so he did advertisement and branding, so he's the one doing the whole graphic concept that we have, and our logo, and so it was a really cool process to do this with him. I could have done it without him, because that would have been an elementary part in the startup. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you just mentioned you were in sales and IT for 7-8 years.
Yes. Yeah.
How did you? It's not fashion. How did you manage the shift to fashion? What did that look like for you concretely? When you decided, okay, I quit my job, and how did that look like?
Well, I mean, I was already when I was at university. I knew I had to write my thesis, and I went to St. Gallen, and I was in the Institute for Ecology, and I don't know, I remember the second part, but it's ecology. So, and I met my professor, and I told him I love everything to do with sustainability, and being from Latin America, you're very aware of the social problems that they are, right? I lived 18 years in Guatemala. I came to Switzerland to study, so I was very young. I wanted to change the world.
Well, you still want to change the world. That's good.
But then back then I said, I don't want to write a paper on something I'm going to be doing this for a year. I want to do something that a bit meaningful. And with Latin America it was a bit difficult, because back then I didn't, my friends were not working, and they were all studying, so I didn't have, the big connections still, maybe from my parents, but still, I wanted to do something, with impact, and then I told him, what should I do? And he's like, pick a topic you like. And I'm not like the fashionista, I'm super basic. I love colors, I love things, but I'm not the fashion icon, whatever. But I always loved, textiles. My mom, you can see it in my apartment.
There's many different kinds of textiles.
Yeah, we love to travel, and my mom is an archaeologist, and she collects vintage huipiles, which are Guatemalan blouses. I can show you a big book afterwards. And so I grew up with textiles, and other colors, and traveling around Guatemala and Mexico, and so I was always in kind of the fashion, not the fashion, but the craftsmanship part of it. So when I was looking for a topic at university to do that, I realized it's something with textiles, and then organic cotton was booming. Natura Plan was doing, organic cotton, and people were becoming a little bit more aware, not the food, but also clothes matter. And then, so I picked up organic cotton, and I started doing that for my thesis. And then, of course, I met a lot of designers through that. Veja back then, that are sold out, because Meghan Markle used their sneakers. We're a small startup from France, and so it was all these small firms, and I met them through my research, and a PhD student that was helping me with that. And then we realized, okay, the biggest challenge that they have is not, being Natura Plan. Okay, they're going to be fine, they're going to do their towels and basic stuff, and they're going to be fine because they're cope. But what happens with all the super cool designers that are really doing nice things, but have no money and have no access to financing? And then my second study was then about, when I was doing my master's, I was doing marketing, and then I did financing for those startups. So I was already in that scene, and then I wanted to work there, but I didn't find anything where I could live off, and I wanted to stay in Zurich. So yeah.
So how do you manage to go from that paying job to
to HP. So I went to HP because I wanted something, fast changing. AT is super fast, and I worked in for HP for 7 years, and I loved it. It was really cool time. But I was always, first of all, it's a very, very demanding job if you're in sales for 7 years. So I started as a graduate, I went on through inside sales, and then went to field sales, and I was dealing with big retailers, Swiss Television. So it was global sales. It was super, super exciting. But I was, and HP is very, very good in the social responsibility. So that was one of the factors when I decided what job I was going to. So okay, I didn't make it in this. I wanted to go into IT, and I was doing a lot of. So they have a cooperation with Kiva. I don't know if you know Kiva. They do a platform for microcredits.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the ambassador for Kiva in that in HP for my country. So it was like you had different ambassadors in every country pushing that program. Because the HP Foundation would give $10 per person that you could find out all the microcredit micro entrepreneurs that actually wanted to get some money. You could scan them through country, education, whatever you wanted, and then you could decide who you would give your loan to. And then so I was doing that, and I realized like, okay, I mean, this is super cool. I get to do this. As part of my job, but I would love, is this something that I could do? And then I was working with the women network, and so all these topics were always kind of recurring. And then this year my brother got sick. He had cancer with 41, and so it was a big, and I was super tired from work. I was it was a lot of pressure, like tenders and big. And I went home and I was like seriously super tired. Like it was before my brother got sick. So I don't know, it's just like I was there and I just realized like, okay, and I went to the market one day with my mom and I just realized like, this is what I love, like I love IT and I love my job, but I love this, the textiles, telling the story, where is this coming from? And then I just started like brainstorming with my husband and my brother, like what could we do? And then we started like thinking, and then the funniest thing happened. Like my niece, she was born 2.5 years ago, and she had Down syndrome, so it was a bit like hit for the family at the beginning, and then there's like this designer who I actually represent, and I'm really proud to be representing her, who's called Isabella Springmull, and she is from Guatemala, and she's 22 years old, and her mom has a foundation that she started when she was born for helping people that like in Guatemala that they don't have a lot of resources, that they get a lot of support so that these kids develop, and she started this brand because she started sewing things. Actually, one of this cushion is from her.
It's very beautiful.
Thank you. So she started using whippeals, like vintage whippeals, and like doing fashion things. So this is a cushion, but normally she does like really cool clothes. And my niece modeled for her in November. And so my family knows her now, and then there's like Isabella, who's the designer, 22, and her mom especially, who's like the driving force as well. And I called my sister-in-law that lives in New York, but I have been in Guatemala for the fashion show, and I called her and I told her, I've been thinking about doing this platform for Latin American design brands, and I mean Isabella would fit perfectly. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to bring things and do something online. And then I told her, but it has to have, me, it has to have an impact, it has to be social, or it has to be something special, and Isabella would be perfect for that. And then she's like, well, yeah, good, call her mom. And then I called her, and I was at the beach. I remember I was with my parents on the beach, and I was recovering from like a really bad cold, and I called her and told her that I was thinking about this, and she said, it's super funny. Actually, we were looking to expand because she was in London for the London Fashion Week and was like voted for the BBC 100. So a lot of people know her, but she's in Guatemala, so they export a little bit to the US. But they were looking for someone in Europe, and then just like that, 2 days later, I was in her atelier. She wasn't even there because she was getting a prize somewhere, and I was like taking a bag, but like a huge suitcase full of stuff. And that's how it started.
Oh, wow.
And then
Cool.
I came
Awesome
here.
Story,
Yeah, it's really funny. I actually, it's crazy that it's only been a couple of months. It feels like ages ago. And then I came here, and then I told my husband, like, okay, so we're doing this. And my brother was like, okay. And then we started brainstorming names and concepts. And yeah, and I had a lot of help. I had a lot of help from friends. And
when did you decide to quit the job?
well, I did it on the side, and then I did it a little bit. It was supposed to be a hobby, not a hobby, but it's supposed. I needed some meaning, you know. I needed some meaning, so I thought,
Kind
okay,
of a side project with.
It's going to be a side project. So my brother and I, he's a freelancer, so he has a lot more time, and he was super excited, you know. So well, not more time. I thought so when I was working at HP. Yeah, he's at home, you know. He has time.
He's watching TV.
Now I know that that's such a lie. Like I travel more now than before. But no, I was no. So he said like, okay, well, you know, we kind of do it together. And then I told my boss. I had already told my boss, who was really really good, that I was very tired. That the pressure was really getting to me because I was working. I mean, it was a tough year. Like I had a really cool job and I had a cool team and everything. But I had like, I don't know, 10 tenders in like a year. And besides your daily job, and I had like a lot of customers, and the tenders just take so much time out of you because
What's a tender?
a tender is where they eine Ausschreibung, so they send their requirements out, like big companies or first television, for example, that we won, like luckily before I left, and then they send the requirements like, we need for the next 3-4 years, we need 1,000 or 500 PCs, notebooks, whatever, and then you have to offer. It's an RFQ, and then you send your tender, like you send your offering, and then you compete against the others. So it's normally that one, the Apple, the Chinese, the other American, and HP. So I was doing that, and I was very tired. So it was a side project. It wasn't going to be my life. And then we realized that there's more work to that than we expected. And then my brother got sick. It was around that time, so I think it was April, but we didn't know. Like it was. So I was like without stress. I took some time off. I went at home, and he was recovering. He had an operation, so we were like 2 weeks at home, and then my parents weren't here. His girlfriend lives in Mexico, so it was just the two of us, and it was very very stressful. Like. And then so we were 2 weeks like recovering both because I was so stressed and he was sick. So we were like, you know, brainstorming and then we came to the name eventually, and then starting like the concept, and because he's in branding, so he's very good at, you know, taking me there because I studied marketing, but I never worked in marketing. So and and I just, I don't know, I started telling people, and I started looking, you know, I was auto-financing everything because I had my job, and then everything that went into my job, you know, like into Animazul. And then, and I started getting bigger and bigger, like, you know, the project. And I realized, okay, you cannot just sell jewelry here. You have to do like a responsibility mark, and you have to import, and you have to register. And you know, it was a bit like, maybe we were not, you know, maybe we were not so aware like of all the implications. But then it just started happening, and I needed more time. And then I told my boss, of course, because I had to tell them. And then he's like, okay, it's a cool project, right? So do it. And I reduced to 80% in HP, thinking that like that they would give me time. But I realized like it's a lie. Like 80%. Well, for me, it's a lie because 80% means you work only 100% instead of 150.
Yeah.
And then you work so much for that day, then in the end you're so tired that you don't have time for everything.
I think that's a good point to really remember.
Definitely.
If you think you can go 80%, the company's still gonna want those results. You're just gonna work more on those 4 days.
It depends, I think, on the job, but in sales, it's impossible to tell your customers like you're not there for a day because on that day so many things happen, and if you're in a tender, so it's. I mean, I realized like, okay, I needed some time for myself, and for me, Animazul was that, you know, the driving force because I could work evenings and I wouldn't be tired. Like it was just because, and still now, you know, I work probably as much as I used to, but it's different. It's like I have my passion and it's my thing, and it's for me, and it's for, you know, for us, and it's really different. So I reduced, and then eventually I had to realize like it didn't work, and then I was thinking like, okay, I have a really good job and I have a good salary and we travel and
We know that feeling, yeah.
yeah, so it was like, whoa, am I really going to do this?
Yeah.
And then my brother got really, really sick, so he had cancer. So I just realized, like, life is too short. And then, I asked my husband, because of course he's still working, and I told him, like, I really want to do this. And I was always in this startup scene, and I just really wanted to do it. And he said, you're gonna be fine. And then a couple of friends went through the same process this year. I don't know, like 2018 has been a year of change. And then a friend told me, like, what's the worst, like 2 friends actually told me, and girls actually, like, they had really good jobs, and they said, what's the worst that can happen? Like, the worst that happens is that you learn a lot and you have nothing to lose, because yes, you have a great job, but you could always go back and or somewhere else. No one's gonna take that from you, and the experience you're gonna take as an entrepreneur is never ever any company is going to give you that. And then I made the decision in June that I couldn't do both. If I wanted this to succeed, I had to make a sacrifice, so I quit. And it took a lot of courage, and it was very difficult. I love my team. I used to love my company. But I was really tired. I was really tired, and I think it was a decision for me, also, for my family, for me. And then I thought I was going to have more time, and then the company started growing, and it's not that we're super booming, because we're online, so we need to get traction.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest challenge, I guess.
Yeah, that's actually maybe a good point
Yeah, that's
to go to the next part, right?
You have to stop.
That's probably a very good point to jump to the next chapter.
Yes, very good point. I was thinking about that.
Yeah. So you just kind of started with, like, you need traction, right?
Yes.
And we talked before a little bit about how you got your first supplier, kind of, or your first products. But how did you manage to get your first customers?
Well, we went online on the 9th of June, and we did a big event. Because of course I told all my friends, and everyone's like, oh, how cool, like, show me the stuff, because, like, people want to see it. Yeah. And I saw them in pictures, but it's not the same. And then I realized, like, okay, we need like a big bang, like, because we're going online, and it's just like one day I'm gonna sit in my couch and I'm gonna be like, okay, we're live. Wow. Yeah.
Nothing happens.
Yeah, and then I live in Zurich for 15 years. Well, St. Gallen in Zurich, and I know a lot of people, and I have a lot of Latin American community, but a lot of Swiss friends as well that like the story. And then I said, okay, let's do a big party, and maybe that's one of the keys that we've been doing, collaboration with others, brands or entrepreneurs. So one of my friends knows Manuel, who's like he started an online shop actually for rum from Cuba and cigars, and he has a very cool bar in Löwenstraße. And we asked him, like, it fit perfectly, because we had, like, you have the coffee, the bar and the coffee shop, and then you have the coffee, which is mostly from Latin America, and you have the rum, which is always from Latin America. So it's a Cuban kind of style. And we asked him, like, we're going to do our launch, could we do it here? And he said yes. And so we had around 60 people for a launch. So it was mostly friends and family. Yeah. Because I didn't want, I was super nervous. I thought, like, maybe 10 people were coming. Yeah. And then, like, when there were 60, I was, like, overwhelmed, and they were super happy at the bar. And then we did it, like, I love doing events and hosting people and parties and stuff. So it was for me, that was natural. It was just, but it was just, of course, I was working on the homepage, but then I was in London with a couple of friends, and we started, like, brainstorming, and we could do, like, couple of drinks with this, and then you put the coffee next to the stuff, and then finding new suppliers, because I couldn't have one, right? So because it's a platform, it's not one representation. So through her, like through Isabella, I got this jewelry brand I'm wearing, Wakami, which is an amazing brand that I love, with women empowerment, and just, like, having 2 or 3 key brands, like, the others followed, because they were, okay, if you're working with her and they trust you, like, I give you my brand. So and then we had 5 brands already, from really cool, really cool, mostly Guatemalan, but Colombian. But it was the start, and then we had them display there in a party, and people could look at them and buy them online. Yeah. we didn't take orders on that day, which was probably a bit of a mistake.
Yeah.
But I wasn't ready. Like I didn't even know that SumUp existed, you know, and so I had the store live, and then people could go online and order the things. They could touch them there and then order, and then I realized, okay, and yeah, at the beginning it was just friends and family, and then if people like the story, they kind of start telling people, and then that's how like we get new sales. And then now I try to go to many events as I can, be out there. Now we organize pop-ups. I go to every event that I could present Animazul, and I just went to Latin American Fashion Summit, which was amazing, and Carmen, it was really, really great. To meet other, you know, to get into the industry, because sorry, I'm not from the industry, so I need to get in touch with that. So it was a perfect platform for me, and I learned a lot of people. I met a lot of people, really cool designers that I'm going to start working with, and yeah, I mean that's been it. It's been crazy a couple months. I thought I was going to take some time off after my super busy job and then like take it easy, but apparently I can't do that. So
yeah, that doesn't work.
Doesn't work, and now my brother is helping out, and I always had the help from Annie, who is a girl from Berlin. So she's working with us. Doing the content, you know, like helping me get ready for the 9th of June. So because I realized like I couldn't manage with my job and everything, and then Christian was like, my brother was looking after the whole design part, and like the homepage looked nice, the pictures and stuff, and Annie was helping with the content, and she's still working with us, and it's really cool because it's a bit of a team. I'm not such a lonely wolf. And then now my other brother just joined, which is really cool. He has a background in hotel, marketing for hotels, online marketing. So he's hopefully taking us to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, we were wondering. We interviewed another startup that sells clothes online, also on a web shop in Copenhagen, with 100% sustainable cotton.
Oh, cool.
And the founder told me, they're doing a lot of Instagram and trying to get the brand out there. They only have one brand. You have several brands.
Yes.
What's your best channel to acquire customers right now, and what are you trying to do? I mean, you can't really promote one brand. It's many different brands.
Yes.
So how does that work for you?
We choose brands that already have a little bit of track record, because it helps us with the advertisement. So they already have to have nice pictures. Like, I mean, not like it could be just like one person, but you know, like they already have to have a little bit of content. At the moment, and this is one of the things that we have to do next year, but at the moment we're using the content of the brands. So because creating content, and this is something I super underestimated, and this is why we're working with a lot of bloggers, it takes a lot of time, especially if you're not into that. Like I was doing a travel blog, so my husband photographed and I wrote a little bit, but I didn't like photograph my food, or you know, so it's I was the model at the beginning, so so then I had to like, you know, put my hand and then like the earring, and it just takes a lot of time. So we do that mostly over Instagram. But people on Instagram, yes, they see the things, and if like a blogger that they love wears it, they're probably gonna buy it eventually. But that's like one target group. But the pop-ups, actually, because really like our initial target group is not the one that buys the most.
What are your different target groups?
We had, firstly, we thought that we're going to be doing 25 to 40, which is like the age that we are in. So I thought, you know, straight out of uni, you start working, you have a little money, you're more aware, you know, like my generation, I think, is more aware of sustainability, and you have a little bit more money than if you were a student, so you're willing to pay for the impact. So we thought that was going to be, you know, between 25 and 40 was going to be our target group, and then we realized like actually our biggest target group is between 40 and 55, which are the ones that have a little bit more disposable income and a little bit more time to like read about the story, and so it depends. Like Instagram, of course, is for the 25 to 40,
Yeah.
We're 38, so more or less. But then on their pop-ups or like in our private events that we do, also do private sales, those are the ones buying the most because they buy it for their daughters, they buy it as a gift, they buy it for them, it's like, and they love, the story that's Latin America, maybe they know a little bit more or they travel there, so, we're not doing it only for Latin Americans, actually we're doing it for Europe, for everyone in Europe, but, so we want everyone to like it, but we want everyone to like the story. Not just, like the product, of course, is the first thing, the design, but the story behind it, and then, so we realized like different channels, so private events, it's helping a lot, or the pop-ups for that target group.
Yeah. Have you managed to kind of specify it a little bit more than just the age as a characteristic of your target group, and how did that happen?
It's either people are taking so it's our idea, like a customer in our mind is a girl that travels a little bit, that likes other cultures, because you have to be a little bit boho to like our stuff. You travel, you buy special things, you don't want to be like go to Zara and find the same blouse everywhere, or jewelry, so you want to have a little bit something special. You love to eat, to like, that you like food and you like to travel. I said that already. And but you're also aware about, that fashion is not just like a thing, but it's like a huge supply chain behind it. And that, that maybe you heard about fashion revolution, or you follow people, like you like to buy organic food. So those are like the trails that we're
so those that's where you're trying to tap into these communities.
Yes. So we're trying to take that consciousness, the things that I learned during my research, the consciousness about food and waste, and then translating that into fashion.
So, and then you kind of want to target these people, right?
Yes.
With pop-up stores, but can you give us an example where you started a pop-up store and how you actually managed to bring it right there where these people are?
Yes, well, so we are working a lot with influencers. I wasn't a big fan before, I have to be honest. I follow a couple, and one of them I really like she's a friend of mine, and she does like travel. And then we realized like they attract a lot of people, so what they wear is so we find those that like really go with our brand, so not just everyone. And then we see like, where they have the most followers, and then we try to do pop-ups there. But we always also we're trying to collaborate with other brands, sustainable brands. This is the box that you brought up.
Yeah.
We're trying to work with other sustainable brands that already have more traction than we do, or like are longer in the market, to cooperate with them. So right now in Geneva, for example, we're in a pop-up for 2 weeks with a brand called Pink Maharani. They do cashmere shawls in Kashmir, and she works like with every shawl you sponsor a girl that can keep going to school after she gets her menstruation, because it's a big challenge in India. And she's been in the social business and in Geneva and in Switzerland for a longer time than we've done. She's been 4 years and very successful. And she opened a pop-up where she invites different sustainable brands every week. And and then, for example, this week, to make people aware about our pop-up that we're going to be there, we work with an influencer and then an event, and so invited people to come, and now we have a lot of people coming in. And then so we try to collaborate as much as we can with restaurants, with bars, with other social businesses, with organizations. So it's all about finding, collaborations and markets you want to be. So we're going to be in Lausanne in the Good Festival. So we were selected one of the 100 innovators in Switzerland. That's really cool.
Nice, congratulations.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So and then we're going to do a pop-up there. So we're trying to go where we find these consumers,
where the people are,
and we can attract them. But of course, our main channel is the homepage, and this is where we have to. So we're going to be investing more in online marketing. Yeah. And this is where my other brother comes in.
Where your brother comes in, okay.
And yes, so that's.
Yeah, I think sounds like a good combination to have the influencers and then the offline stores. I mean, you learned people want to touch it, so okay, it needs to be offline, and then you learned, okay, there's already communities of people like that, so let's find influencers in those communities. And we just discussed it recently. When you choose influencers, right, you need to select the right one.
Yes.
You can't just take any influencer. It needs to be, because that influencer is going to be the face of your brand.
Yes.
And you don't want just any person to be the face of your brand. And then also the engagement they have with their audience is important. I mean, you could have 100,000 followers, but only get 3 likes on every picture.
Or you have fake followers.
or you have fake followers. Or you could have 1,000 followers, but you get 500 likes on every post, and I think that's a good thing to look out for when you look at.
Yeah, this was with the influencers. I think this has been really good for us, like building our community. But yeah, we were lucky that we knew like a couple of people that were doing this, and for example, one of the girls that started with us, she just came from Guatemala to Switzerland and was trying to build her community here. So it was a perfect match, because we needed to get like nice pictures. We needed to get some traction, and she already had like a really good fan base in Guatemala, but was trying to build her community here. So it was a perfect combination. And then my friend in Geneva, this Mexican, lives in Geneva and has a blog about Geneva. It has this connection with us. So it's we were looking for those right people, and then and to build the community, like you were saying, we don't want to have 1,000. Of course, it influences when people say like, oh, you have more than 10,000 followers, but for us, we want people to follow us on Instagram because they love our story, not because So we want people engaged.
What do you offer influencers in return for them, opening up to their communities about
we're learning. So at the beginning, a lot of people were asking for free products, and I was like, what? I mean, like, because I mean, it's a social, not completely social, but of course it's a business first of all, but also it has a social part. So if I'm giving things away, then it means that I'm not going to have enough cash flow to have other brands. And then so at the beginning we were like, oh, I don't know, but we paid for most of the content. So we pay them for their time, for taking the pictures, and they can use it in their social media, and we use it in the social media. So we agree on a fee. I think is the fairest part, because they get like it is a lot of work to create content, and I mean, for us it's a way of marketing. So we decided that this is the best way to go. So we pay for them content. Yeah. You
pay for the time, and then
for
they post it once, or
we don't work with that many. We work with only a few,
Yeah.
and with those we're paying for the content.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
All right.
Like, yes, as much as we can, of course, because I mean we're also a startup, so the budget is limited, and I don't have my super good paying job anymore. So
yeah, we know.
yes. So yeah, no, I mean we're looking for those where they want to work with us, in long term, not just a couple of posts. And
Yeah.
yeah, and now we're going to start doing our own content as well.
Yeah.
The doll you were
That's why
looking at.
you have a doll here, right? We have a doll here, and
Yeah.
it was pretty interesting seeing that in
No.
our living room.
Yeah, no, but the photograph is something that it's one of the investments we're going to be doing next year to give it more like this Animazul world feeling, like not just the brand's content, but also kind of giving like our view, and
Right.
in the context of Switzerland, because this is our market. So we post a little bit of pictures, from Latin America, so people get a bit the vibe. But our market is Switzerland. We want the things to be seen here, not
Sure.
in Latin America, and that people are like, oh, okay, I could use it here. So that's.
Yeah, so you're connecting Latin America and Europe. We discussed it earlier. How do the logistics work? I mean, this importing business might sound crazy for someone coming out of uni that wants to do something like that, but then thinks, I can't do this. I don't know how to do it. How do I import from another continent?
Yeah.
How do you do it? And how do you connect to these artists? And how does the whole process work?
Yeah, that's I used to have a team that did it for me. So I just, if I wanted to, when I won that tender before and I wanted to sell things in Singapore, I was like, yeah, sure, no problem, right? So I closed the contract, and someone shipped magically the computer to Singapore, to India, to Canada. Yeah, and this is different when you're an
easier.
entrepreneur. You have to do everything. So, so you're the janitor, you're the CEO, you are the logistics manager, and everything, right? At the beginning.
Yeah.
And so importing, yeah, it was a big challenge. So first I had a huge suitcase, and yeah, I came through customs with it, and that was it. That was the first. But then
That's
of
the
course
first.
I couldn't go to Colombia every time. I couldn't go to. So we at the moment we're importing with couriers because we don't have the huge volumes. Like we're more in the clothes business. We're still only with Isabella, and then in the future we're going to start working with someone from Peru who's called Graciela Juan. But it's only going to be in spring, and they're importing to Europe for us. So our packages, because it's mostly jewelry and accessories, are relatively small. So the best way for us right now is with couriers. But then it's again the whole importing things. For example, jewelry, you can't just import gold or silver. Like you have to mark it before it even enters the country. And this is something that was completely out of my... I didn't even think about that. And then I was like, oh God, you have to do that. So we have now to stamp things before they get imported in Switzerland. And I think this is why we're super happy to be in Zurich or in Switzerland in general. Like here, things work differently than in Latin America. You can go to the customs and ask them like, what do I need to do? And then they will tell you, and they will give you a handout, and they will tell you need to do this, you have to register, you have to pay, you have to come and test the things and to see if it's gold or not. They tell you, and it's for free, because they don't want like counterfeit products in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So actually they help you. So this is one of my things. Use whatever institutions we have in Switzerland, because they're here to help you, actually, not to make things difficult. In Latin America, that's different. Like I want to import now from Colombia to Guatemala because there's like a brand that wants to be in Guatemala, so we're thinking about that. And it's another huge deal. Like to get a stamp there, like I'm waiting for 3 months.
I can really imagine, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So it's and exporting is not a problem. Like the brands export themselves, so they ship it to me, or sometimes I pick it up with DHL, UPS, whatever. And of course, when we get a bit bigger, then we're going to be like thinking about like planning ahead and logistics. But right now, like the packages are not bigger than the one you brought up.
And so they arrive here to your apartment?
Yes, to my apartment.
And then, so if someone orders on the online store, on your shop?
Depends.
It depends.
Depends on the brand.
Are you a lawyer?
No.
That's a lawyer's thing.
Yeah, well, I have a very good lawyer.
So it really depends.
Depends on the brand. Some things we have on stock because they are reproducible, and we have a lot of unique pieces. So the clothes, they're upcycled, so every piece is unique. So if we have it, we have it, and if it's in your size, you're lucky, and otherwise we don't. Like, this is the big challenge, of course, as well. But so some brands, they're unique pieces. It's like a piece of art. So every piece is unique. Some of the jewelry we have in different sizes, but if you're like a size is not so standard, then we have to have it made, and then we try to bundle the orders, and then you wait for 5 to 6 weeks, which until now hasn't been a big challenge because people are aware that it's handmade and your piece is made for you. So it depends. Now we're trying to find those brands that have a little bit more scalable products because it makes it easier to ship and a bit faster. I mean, we're not Galaxus that ships next day. You order today and you get it tomorrow. But and I don't think we're not in the fast fashion industry. We're in the slow fashion movement, and so our clients still are willing to wait. So it's. We're learning a lot and trying to make things a bit easier. But when I'm working with artisans, it's always a challenge because it takes time. Things take time, and
But so the base is generally your apartment, and then
here's not my stock anymore because my husband was going crazy, and I So we started here. When my brother lives 40 minutes from here, not very far away. So his apartment was the
base,
the design base, and this was like the operations base, and I used to like go back and forth, and then when we started getting more like inventory, I couldn't manage from here, so now I'm with my father-in-law in Küsnacht, which it's a bit of, so in my husband's old room, now is my stock, so I go
in his old bedroom.
Yeah, so I ship like 2 hours a week, and
That's
then I go.
also smart use of old bedrooms.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
We were thinking about an idea where we actually wanted to make use of this for the empty nesters, kind of like when the kids moved out, right, for these rooms, and that's actually a smart way
storage room for startups.
It's
Exactly,
really cool, actually, because I get to my father-in-law and his partner are super nice, so I get to go and have a coffee with them, a chat, and then I pack my things, and then I can park the car, because here in Zurich you can't park the car in front, so it's a logistic issue as well. And I'm not that big, so carrying a lot of boxes is so no, there it's a bit easier, and it's great because they have space, and I need space, and I don't have a lot of money to be spending on storage, so I go there, have a coffee, a chat, and then bring my stuff, and
awesome.
It's a good combination at the moment.
Works
But
well.
I mean, it has its challenges now. We're going to be outsourcing our shipment probably to an organization that's working with people with handicaps.
Yeah.
With a handicap, so that they can pack it and send it, and because we want to travel next year to create content in Latin America, visit our distributors, and if I'm not here,
it needs to work with that too.
Someone has to ship the packages, and it makes us more independent, and
right. Yeah, when you're growing, you need to give away some parts of the value chain,
or at least prepare for it. I think even if you're not there, you have to think about it. What happens if I get a huge order, and then you have to be able to ship, because the worst thing, and I think that's one of the biggest learnings that we had, is if you sell something and you cannot fulfill it. That's the worst that can happen. So we had pre-orders when we started with the platform, and we didn't have the things here, and we didn't have it was our first order with them, and it didn't arrive. So we had to rebuild and refund, and luckily it was friends and family, so it was people we knew well. But imagine that happens, you have one chance. I've been in customer support before, so you have one chance, and if you mess that up, it's really, really difficult. So don't promise things you can't fulfill.
I think the good thing when you're a startup, every book says, right, you need to start with early adopters, with people who really believe in your story. I think one reason for that is exactly because in the beginning you probably will mess up something, but these people will still stay with you, and because they believe in the story. Part of your story also, you mentioned it on the side a bit, is really you want to have an impact.
Yes.
And on the website you claim that $1 per purchase goes to educational projects. For people in Europe who,
it's not so much.
for $1, you can't really buy anything, some chewing gums. How big is that impact? And how can we European consumers better understand what that means?
Yes. So we have a picture as well there, what $1 means, what you can do with $1, 1 franc actually. So we are working with, all our brands have a social impact. Most of them, not it could be just craftsmanship and teaching we're working with jewelers that are teaching others to create that and to maintain, the traditional craftsmanship of the jewelry. So this is maybe their impact, teaching others and maintaining that. Maybe others are women empowerment, as I mentioned. So all our brands have this impact, but we wanted to create our impact of our own. So we wanted to give something back to Latin America, not just, buying, and then, of course, it's a business. So we're not an NGO, we're a business. And this has to work from the business side. But we wanted to have an impact of our own, and for me, education is one of the most important things in changing Latin America, because Guatemala, for example, 38% illiteracy, crazy. So if we don't change that part, it's not going to get better, people are still going to be poor, and the rich are going to get richer, and nothing in between is going to happen. And then, so we wanted to have our impact of our own, and then this is why we partner with Lichutam, which is an organization that works in rural areas in Guatemala, providing scholarships to kids, and they're doing a lot of IT studies with them, because normally the problem that you have is that primary school is covered by the government, but secondary school isn't, and then the kids stop going to school because they have to pay for it, and the families need the income somehow, and then the kids work it with them in the fields, and then stop going to school, and then of course then the the circle of poverty continues because they didn't go to school and have better chances. They continue, and then have no access to IT, or the secondary school is super far away, so it takes them like an hour to get there, and it's dangerous for kids, so we wanted to invest in education, and in this project that we're working with, and this is one of the first projects we're going to work, we want to have like a project in every country, so that if you buy something from Colombia, you spend something in Colombia, but at the moment it's in Guatemala because that's our biggest our biggest supplier market. And so what they're doing is they built a school in this super rural area, and they get mostly in Germany, so they are based in Hamburg and in Guatemala. And then they create scholarships for these kids to stay at school, and then they complete the first secondary school, and then they have also kind of like a college preparation. And they teach them a lot of IT skills, which are super, it's super important in the super rural areas, and they teach them about IT. So these kids have the opportunity to go even to online universities, or go to the city, or...
Yeah.
So it's like it's not the basic education, but it's like a secondary school that we think is very important. So for every franc, like every purchase that you do, 1 franc goes into that. And they calculated that with 12, you can sponsor like a month, and this education with 12 francs, which is for us is nothing, and for them it's life changing. So
it's a hamburger.
It's a hamburger.
At McDonald's. Yeah. So 1 hamburger at McDonald's is.
It's 12 hamburgers is a month education for a kid, with everything, like with books and meals, because that's another big issue.
12 francs,
and then they get a higher education, and so we're doing that, and I mean we're doing the payments like every half year.
Yeah.
So we get the money, and then we ship it to like we transfer it to Lechutam, and Lechutam is a really cool organization, and they do a lot of like very transparent, like how they implement it, and these are like the NGOs that we want to be working with in the future.
I think that's great. That's super nice.
Yeah. So we talked about many different topics now, right? What was your biggest challenge so far, and maybe also the learning out of it, or is there another very big learning for yourself for your entrepreneurial journey?
My biggest challenge, the biggest challenge was to start, I think.
Like the process you kind of described, like getting out of your normal job and get going with it.
I always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Well, I have a really cool picture with my brothers where I had like my parents gave me a store. It was called Tienda Karin, it was store Karin, when I was like 8. And I loved it. Like I had like Milo products in Switzerland, like the miniature, and I always liked it. And when I went to university, I was studying learning about entrepreneurship, but I didn't have the courage to do it. I didn't have the big idea, like everyone tells you have to have this big idea, and the next Facebook or the next whatever, and you're waiting for it. It doesn't come, and then you're like, okay, good. And then I think the biggest challenge for me was just to start, and then. I remember I met someone who just said like the best way to start is just to take the first step, and of course I was lucky this year, but I was super unlucky as well, so we had a lot of challenges, but I think it was this first step, and I think I had a lot of support from my friends and my family, and like just go for it, and then when you have this encouragement, and I mean I'm lucky that I have it, some people might not have it, but I think if you have this intrinsic like willingness to do something, even if it doesn't have an impact, if you just want to sell stuff, I don't know, but if you really want to do it, you just have to take the first step, and then things start kind of evolving, and then you start meeting people that will help you with this, and maybe you learn, and maybe that's not working, but you just take like one step at a time, and then things just, and I hope that this is our first step for something huge. Like we don't want to be like super huge, but we want to have an impact, and that this things that we have in mind actually work. But this have been the steps, and I think that was the biggest challenge, but also the biggest learning. I mean, I've learned in the last, March is not so long ago, but I've learned so much about everything, about importing, about logistics, how to choose the best carton, how to, jewelry, clothes, textiles, whatever. And
so many topics.
Financing, whatever. I with my friend who's doing my bookkeeping, which is a really good friend from university, and she starts talking like, how do I book this? I'm like, I have no idea. I studied business, but I never worked in this. So I think the biggest challenge is to learn all the things you need to do, but my solution is look for whatever people you have in your environment and get the best help you can get, because you're not going to be able to do everything by yourself. It's impossible. Like, I don't even get to answer my emails. You've seen it, because I have so many things to do at the moment, and I'm traveling a lot and doing this and having calls and here, and you won't be able to do it by yourself. So having a team is essential. So I'm really lucky that I have like really cool people around me, and like my brothers are helping me so much, and especially my husband is helping me, and my dad is my mentor. You know, so it's
big
like
family business.
It's
coming up.
But it's a friends and family business, but it's also
awesome.
tough because it's family and business. So sometimes you can't, you know. I used to work with people that were not my family, so I was like, no, this is not working, and this is tough. It's not easy. And then maybe you have brothers, but still you have friends, and you have to work with people you trust. Definitely, people you trust and people that you know how they work. And let them do their thing, because if you're trying to control everything, that's not gonna
doesn't
work.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, so that's been probably the biggest learning and challenge.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Just take the first step, small step. If it, whatever.
Whatever it is,
take a step.
just take a step, and then
Google
you're
something.
then you're kind of on it, right?
Yeah,
Then it starts to.
it starts to develop. I mean, now we're like Einzelunternehmen, so because it was the fastest way to start a business.
Right, that's the type of legal entity that you chose. It's super easy.
Yes, and Switzerland is perfect for that. You can just start. You don't even have to register until you don't do like a couple of 100,000, or you don't have to. I registered by myself to the Mehrwertsteuer because I thought I was going to get it back, and now I know it's a huge thing. And now we're going into the GmbH next year, so
that's a limited liability.
Because we're looking for investors, and if you want investors, you need to have some.
Another structure.
Another structure, of course, and because we want to take Animazul to the next level now, and we want to go to Germany, which is our market that we would like to go and us next, because I think people there are a bit more risk taking in terms of clothes. We were in Berlin and we realized like this is our market. I mean, we love Switzerland. It's perfect because people are very aware. You know, this is really the social part, and people willing to pay a little bit more is perfect in Switzerland. But in Berlin, or Germany, people are a bit more risk taking in terms of clothes, and so this is the next step. But Germany is a huge market, so we rather learn a lot in Switzerland, and then I mean, just Geneva is like another country. You know, things work differently. I don't speak very well French, so. But it's a really cool market as well. So we're learning here before we wanted to go to Germany, tack, and then I realized like, okay, this is not going to work. So step back, breathe.
So, looking back at, it really feels like even after this conversation, like it was a year.
Yeah. It feels like that.
So more than a year. Yeah. A lot of things happened at least.
Yeah. So looking back, what would you do differently?
I would meet all my distributors first this time. I worked with people that I didn't know, and that didn't turn out great. Well, with 95%, it worked with 5 months. Yeah. Because we're selling, you know, I knew the products, but I didn't know the person, and I thought, it's just like I'm just selling the products, but I'm selling stories. And even as an account manager before, like. You know, you can have the best product in the world, but if the chemistry is not working, it's not working. So I work with references, you know, people that knew, I know the product, I know the person. Oh yeah, she will ship your stuff and whatever. And then, but the human component, even in online business, is so important. So if it's, you know, you have to know your distributors, you have to know who you're working with. It has to work. So this is why I went to Mexico, because I wanted to get to know the people. And this is something, you know, in a fast-moving world, you think, whatever, emails and telephone, that will work. But no, you know, the human connection is important. And that is maybe the only thing I would have done differently. All the other things, I didn't even know were happening. It just... No, nothing else. But that is something I think is important. Know your distributors, work with someone you actually like and respect.
Why are you hopeful for the future of your startup? One thing.
That we are that we're successful. No, I want, I don't want to become like this huge company. Again, because we're in a slow fashion. So, I want to be a gateway for these brands to be able to grow and to be there in the next year. So I want to make it the next 3 years, so that our business plan that I still have in my mind, because that's not perfect. I want to be here in the next 3 years. I want it to grow. I want people to know it, and I want people to love the things that they buy, so that they recommend it to others and come again. Yes, and that's what I'm hopeful for, and I really hope that that we have an impact, and both.
Well, you already do, right?
Yes,
You're already
I think so. Yes. I think so.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I'm really happy. To be honest, I'm really happy. Like it's been great. Like it's been intense. Wow, like really intense. It's not been like the chill time that I thought I was going to have.
That's also a learning for everyone listening. It's not chill.
No,
Just
not at all.
get ready, but it's
but
fulfilling.
It's fulfilling. It's you're doing what you love, and I met with you know the word meraki.
No.
Meraki is a word in Greek that says that it's work with passion and love, and it's not work. It's a really cool. I don't know exactly that, but I met with a girl yesterday called Meraki Community in Geneva, and she was saying like it's just like what people love what they do is not work. It's what you do. And it doesn't feel like that, long hours, traffic and jams, going to Geneva because I need the car to bring the stuff, and late nights and a lot of things, and not holidays. I was in Mexico, I was working, but you still get to be in Mexico, so managing your own time, but it's
Definitely.
very fulfilling. It's very fulfilling, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But of course you have a lot of doubt, like how we're gonna make it with the money this month.
Oh, it is.
But things will come, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe let's jump to the last question. Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
What is a book or a movie or an article or whatever you would recommend to entrepreneurs?
I actually, it's probably very cliche and a lot of girls say this, but I read Lean In from Sheryl Sandberg. It's
Lean
In from Sheryl Sandberg.
Sandberg. I'm super like pro women. I'm not a feminist but I really believe that women have a lot of potential that they haven't exploited. And I don't know, this book was so open, she's the CEO of Facebook, and maybe not the most social company. Well, it's the social network.
It's a social network, yeah.
Facebook aside, I think
she's very famous.
She's amazing and empowering women, and she has this whole Lean In movement as well. And I read the book, and I didn't have a lot of issues, in my career because I was treated as brothers, but I think a lot of women have like this, self-doubts, and that you think like, oh, I'm not gonna make it, and how do I, like, I'm the only girl in the room, which happened to me a lot, in IT.
Yeah.
But she was so, and she was also in this world, so I was working still then on IT, and then, just be yourself. Like, you're a girl, act like a girl. Like that actually helps. Like, for me, like, and then it was a really cool book just to read, an honest, like, explanation that everyone feels scared, that like you mess up, that you're probably not going to be the smartest person in the room, and it's okay, you're you, and just be yourself, get yourself out there, have your voice. So I really love that book.
Yeah, cool.
And now she wrote a second one, it's called Option B. It's super cool.
Is it good?
Yeah, well, it's super sad as well because her husband dies, and then it's about like option B in life, but it's about building resilience and how you get off of a horrible situation and like turn it into something positive, which we did like as a family this year. And so I think she's very good, and she writes very honestly, and so you kind of identify yourself. So Lean In or Option B.
Yeah, awesome.
We'll definitely link. Some link.
She has a really cool community, and she's also on Facebook. No, I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, definitely. And to the fear you said, you might not be the smartest person in the room. There's also a saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Exactly.
Right? Because you can't learn anything from the others.
That's true.
So there's always, something that you can use from that. thanks so much.
Thank you.
That was our last question.
Yeah.
You passed the test.
Good. Yeah,
Just
thank
kidding.
you.
It was really amazing. It's always super nice to hear the stories of entrepreneurs, and they're always very different from each other.
Yes, I guess.
And
No,
that was
thank
very
you.
entertaining, very educational for me at least. So thanks a lot, and
Thank
yeah,
you.
a lot of success for Animazuls.
Thanks. All the best, huh?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Startup Stories, brought to you by the Nerd Entrepreneurs. If you want to check out the books that Karin recommended, just check out the show notes, scroll down on your podcast app, and you'll have the links right there. If you feel like giving us feedback and making this podcast better, click on the last link and just leave a short note, and we'll come right back at you with it. We recently also started writing blog posts for every episode, so if you prefer reading, just go to nerdentrepreneurs.com and check out our blog posts about every episode. And if you're still listening and like what we're doing, please click subscribe on your podcast app. That really means a lot. It shows that people care and that we should continue doing what we do. Thanks so much. Have an amazing 2019 and see you next week on Monday. Cheers.